Next one, I sent you this yesterday. Riz Ahmed
Yes.
and the short
Yes.
film The Long Goodbye.
My God. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Could you give me a little
very well
warning or
done.
something, man?
Very well done.
No primer. So I'm there like watching this thing. And then I'm like, oh my God.
Oh, by the way, spoilers. Sorry, carry on. Yeah, go on.
Spoiler. Yeah, yeah. I didn't understand what was happening. Right. Like
Yeah,
it took me till the end. And then I had to like read some stuff afterwards as well and rewatch it. Like the
yeah,
bit where his dad is trying to watch the TV to really
yeah.
understand. Like I was like, oh, okay, it's a wedding house and da da da. And that's super relatable. And I was like, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
this is Riz Ahmed being Riz Ahmed. And that funny
When I
bit where he
was
says,
watching it, and I
yeah,
was like, oh, I really relate to all this, like moving
yeah,
furniture
it's
around. I was like, I had to do
really
that at my
funny,
wedding.
man. They had like Urdu in there. The bit when he talks to that guy, you're just gonna sit there, yeah, yeah, we'll do all the
Yeah,
work.
exactly.
I thought that was
I've done
so
that. I've
good.
done that to people. I'm like, oh, I've seen people do this. Just sit there
Yeah,
and just
yeah,
do fuck
yeah.
all.
You comfortable? Yeah, you comfortable? It's just that was, and then just like that, it just goes dark.
Bam, the whole thing switched. It
Super
turned super
dark,
dark
man.
very quickly. Yeah.
Super dark. Super dark. And then my brain goes to, okay, what's happening? Is this based on something real that's happened? Like, what's the context of this thing? And then you got that clip where the militia are talking to the police. The police don't give a shit. And then obviously, I guess we live in the UK. When you see him looking out the window and you see the houses, that is a standard kind of cul-de-sac type
It is.
setup.
Well,
Do you know
even
what I
a
mean? Like,
cul-de-sac or just living in a poor neighborhood, you can just see
like
out the back of
we
your house
see it
into
and
other
we
gardens.
know, like we relate to that. We walked on streets like that. You get it, right? And I think that's
We
the chilling
lived in
thing.
houses like that, man. Like back in the
Right,
day. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. So that I think that was really chilling. That's one element.
It
The
was just
element,
so happy to
obviously,
turn so dark. So to give people
so
context,
quickly. Yeah, go
yeah,
on,
to give
explain
people
it.
context, it's a quick film. Type it in on YouTube. If you
11
want to hit
minutes.
pause and go ahead and watch it, it's really worth it. It can be a bit triggering, I guess, but it's something that showed me like, oh, okay, I could actually see this happening. It seemed like an episode of Black Mirror in a way. So I was thinking, okay, let's just sit and watch it. And started off happy, turns very dark. Essentially, it's based on the EDL coming to take people away and execute them. That's basically it. And at the end of it, he goes into a rhyme. And in that rhyme is the opening rhyming sequence to his last album that came out at the peak of COVID. So he released his album during COVID. And yeah, the whole concept of where are you from? That's what his question was.
Question is, yeah.
Yeah. And he's obviously doing that after being shot in the video. And he's like acting through being shot and struggling for breath while he says the rhyme. And I thought that was very well done. That's really, really well done.
Great acting.
Great acting. Great acting.
Yeah, he, just like you said, it was 0 to 100. Life has just changed. There's a bit where the lazy guy, when he's on the floor and he looks up at a window and I think he sees other people,
and he says, "Help
brown
us."
people.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's like, why would you not help us? Like, this is clearly wrong, and it's the ignorance, and it's easy when people are being persecuted to then not act. In the defense and just be like, okay, they're not hurting us, so then let's just not do anything as well.
I can't sit and attest and say I've listened to the whole album. I haven't, but I do know that it's based around like struggling with identity and where you're from, etc., and all that stuff. So if you want to give it a listen, it is definitely worth it. It can be a bit heavy, but it does shine a pretty big light on this issue that you sort of mentioned.
And I get the question about identity. What does it mean to be British? That I get. My question is the actual severity, right? The extreme that he's portrayed in this clip.
Oh, yeah.
What is that based on? Like, obviously, that's never.
I don't know. That's obviously a piece of an artistic take, isn't it? And he's just thinking, okay, this is how extreme it could get. And I think
but could it?
I don't know. But I think for some people, they might think that is a possibility, and maybe they live in fear of that. I would like to hope that would never happen. And who knows? But we've spoken on this podcast about racism at police stations and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay. In that sequence, they've obviously told the police to look the other way, and they did. The police come to stop the whole thing, and they have a word with them, and they drive off. So I was like, oh, okay. I can kind of see that bit happening. The police turning a blind eye to it, execute people in the street.
Yeah,
that's a bit far.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's all artistic take, so I kind of understand what he's trying to go for here.
Yeah, I think it's what we call hyperbole, right? So it's exaggeration for effect, to exaggerate what could happen. It's not nothing cannot happen. Is that right? Is that double negative? everything can
I don't
happen.
know.
So
Is it a double
easy to say
negative?
that everything can happen, right? So that's fine. The likelihood of something happening is, is obviously the question. Yes, we talked about police racism and that kind of thing, but never to that degree where we're talking about like execution, making people disappear.
Yeah,
That would be scary. But yeah, like the message lands, isn't it? It's like, what
the
does it mean
message
to be
landed
rich?
very, very well.
Yeah,
And you
and
can
you actually
see
saw that
why it
question.
won an Oscar.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think to win an Oscar, there has to be something about it, and it's not. I think okay. I think that the magic is delivering that in 11 minutes.
Yeah,
You
he
can make a
told a
whole
full
film.
story in 11
11
minutes.
minutes. A whole film moves you, takes you to a position where you're like, okay, you ask these questions, but just doing 11 minutes, man. Like I was just sitting there like, bloody hell, man. Like palpitations, like what the hell is happening here?
Yeah,
Your
yeah,
brain's trying to work it out. Then your brain's thinking about it. And then at the end, you're kind of in this place, like for me, it's like a place of gratitude where it's like, well, A, we don't live in that world at the moment, which is good.
mm,
B, based on, you and I being born in England, I can only speak for myself, but my experience has not been that of the UK. And
mm.
generally, the circles we roll in, I roll in, people I interact with. Because you remember, as a doctor, I will treat people from every socioeconomic background. Okay, so I think generally I would have come across people who are genuinely have a racist kind of disposition. I think I've come across these people. There are people who are a bit standoffish, right? But even with those people, maybe it's because obviously they're coming for help, and that humbles them a little bit.
Maybe it is that element of help for sure. Yeah.
Right? Because it's like, well, if I met you in the street and you didn't know I was a doctor and wasn't helping you, would there be a different kind of right?
I think you've alluded to this in the past when you went away with a couple of mates on that weekend, and you said that you were getting so you were getting looks off people, and they obviously thought that you weren't, the same as them or whichever. So yeah, I think maybe the doctor aspect of the things that you encounter gives you a position of authority over others, and maybe they just bow down and respect it because you are at the end of the day treating them and helping them through a problem. I think if they met you as just a normal person and didn't know you were a doctor, that would probably give a
different dynamic
picture and a different dynamic for you to draw an opinion of.
Yeah, which then is harder for me because outside of work, where I will regularly interact with people like that, there's not a scenario where I'll have to do that outside because you choose who you spend your time with, you're with family, you're with friends, you roll in different circles, you do different things. But that's it. That's my experience. But yeah, man, Riz Ahmed, man, what an actor, man! Like, he's just so versatile.
He is, man. He's a great actor. He's doing a couple of good things on the side as well. I don't know if you're aware of, but what he's done is he set up a fund for Muslim storytellers. So he gives away $25,000 fellowships for young Muslim artists. The reason why he did it is because he said he's tired of seeing Muslims portrayed as those being the people that are inflicting violence on others or being the victims of violence. They don't have much of a speaking part.
So two extremes.
Yeah, and they're not portrayed well in films. And it was sort of backed up by some separate research done, which was out of 200 films from the UK and the US, 200 popular films, sorry, only 2% of the actors are Muslim. And of that 2%, they were the ones that I said, which are victims of violence, are the ones doing it. So yeah, that's a big thing that he wanted to change. And you know what? I really rate that highly. I mean, he doesn't have to do that. And obviously, he sat there and thought when he was the first Muslim person to be elected for an Oscar, he's like, how am I the first one? He's like, there's like billions of us out there, and surely there must be more like opportunities that they're not getting access to. And I think our previous guest, Sonny, who came on, he alluded to a similar thing, right, within improv circles. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's good that people are doing these steps to sort of break into those spaces that aren't really made for them. And they're pioneering a little bit.
Yeah, and I get his point about obviously how can there not be a nomination for him, but in the professional acting world, apart from who's the guy in The Life of Pi? Not Life of Pi, sorry, Slumdog Millionaire, Dev Patel. Right, like for me, it's Riz Ahmed, Dev Patel, like the kind of British kind of guys I think about, kind of Asian. There's not that many ones, yeah. There's not that many. So I guess before you get to that level, you just need more at the grassroots level, man. Then breaking into professional acting, and then obviously you can go on to X, Y, Z. Yeah, man. From Four Lions, where I saw this dude.
You know what? Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. From Four Lions to this, it's unbelievable. And the thing about Four Lions is, I know it's slightly a ridiculous film,
But the
But
message again, the message,
exactly
man.
the message, and
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah, the
this guy
message,
has a knack. I swear, he has a knack
storytelling
for this.
with humor. So it's like you get the message, but you engage with it. That's the thing. Like you, yeah, that's because it's not a lecture, man. You'll watch Four Lines because you think it's funny, right? But even the people that watch it because they think it's funny, they're learning something.
But at the end of Four Lines, you actually feel kind of upset. You're like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh, what?
Hmm.
Yeah, and you just didn't
Because
expect it
you
to go
never
that
think they're
way.
gonna do it. You watch the end of Four
No.
Lines, you think they're just gonna chicken out, or like it's not, it's not really about
And I'm
that.
not saying spoiler alert for that. Sorry, because Four Lines came out like 10 or so years ago. If you haven't
Yeah,
seen it by
I
now,
was in
you're
uni.
never
Yeah,
gonna watch it. So yeah,
great film though. You need to watch it. Hmm.
yeah, great film. But yeah, shout out to Riz Ahmed for that, man. That was very, very impressive, the stuff he did.
Props. Hmm.